Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're glad you're here. My guest this week is Mary Jane Staudenmann, and she's in Switzerland right now. And we're so glad you're here, Mary Jane.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be invited. Thanks so much for thinking
Oh,
of me.
you're welcome. I'm excited to talk about the natal charts and how we can use those, how helpful they are to our lives. And I'm going to just read a little bit of your bio for people here
Yep.
to know more about you.
Yep.
Mary Jane Staudenmann has been an astrology teacher and consultant since 1982. She has studied astrology and tarot and has read prolifically about modern humanistic astrologers. With her approach to astrology, she brings a background in psychology and a career as a dental hygienist, which she insists is a great platform for studying human behavior. And I would probably have to agree with you. I think it would be.
It's
Um,
the place to be.
that's it. Mary Jane's book is Desire and Design, and it focuses on Venus and Mars and how their energies impact our lives and changes as they transit through each zodiac sign. And these two potent planets play out in our own acts and choices, or how those play out in our own acts and choices. And I have the Amazon link below there, and I have Mary Jane's website page. She's part of the Radiate Wellness community, and so that link is there for people to contact Mary Jane if you'd like to. So,
Great.
yeah, great. So, Mary Jane, please, I'm wondering, from a dental hygienist then, and as a U.S. person living in Switzerland, um, what was your journey to get where you are today?
Well,
Just in a nutshell,
it's
or
been
as
a bit
much
of
as you
a
want to say.
zigzag, as you can imagine. I came, well, first of all, coming from the States to Switzerland was a job opportunity as a dental hygienist, and this was all happening more than 50 years ago. As a dental hygienist, we were much in demand here in Switzerland, especially. The schools were just getting started. The dentists were just getting interested in the possibilities of working with a hygienist, and so they were inviting in foreign hygienists from all over, not only the States and Canada, but also Denmark, Sweden, Holland. In Italy, there have been some hygienists that were here even before we were. So they had quite a selection. And a friend of mine, a school friend of mine, was already working here in Geneva, and she wrote to me one day saying that she was having a really good time, and that she was traveling all over the world, all over Europe in any case, and that was something I always wanted to do. So I picked up. She had a job opportunity for me, in fact, already lined up, and I just jumped in for to stay for a year or two. This was our contract arrangement initially, and so I just came and I just stayed. And it's been a great choice. The astrology came later, although as a young person, I was always in contact with especially tarot card readers, and I'd had some experience with numerology. And so I was here. I arrived in Europe when I was 25, and at when I was 30, I had this huge romantic breakup, and it was a terrible time. And I went to see yet another tarologue, person who was a very, very good card reader, very renowned here in Geneva. And as we were doing this layout, she had this fantastic gesture of going to her ephemerides and looking up the people we were talking about, looking up their birth date. And the ephemerides gave us the position, the planetary positions for their birthdays. Well, and she came up with the most incredible information just sitting there, just reading this column of numbers, and told me the most amazing things. I said, "Wow, that's a that's a really good trick." So I thought, I'd better look into this. And in the course of things, she was not the first person to have said, "Why aren't you doing this work yourself?" She just couldn't believe that I hadn't fallen in already. So this turned me on. I thought, I've got to have a look at this. I started with a professor here and in a beginner's astrology class and just fell in. Just fell in. This was where I was supposed to be. So that was a long time ago, and I've never regretted it. It's been a whole fascinating experience working with people now on my own, and it's just always the most amazing things that we can find out together.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. An adventure each time you do a reading for someone, right?
Every time is the first time. Every time is new. It's a whole learning curve in permanence. You just never quit finding out things, various ways to use the different concepts in astrology.
Well, what came to my mind, a question was outside of, I meant being trained and knowing what each of the planets represent and their energies and how to read the charts, how much does a part does your intuition play in interpreting that for people?
I maintain that the the best astrologers, I won't say all astrologers, but I think the best ones have a certain intuition in the reading of the things, because the in the gamut of possibilities for each planet, each sign, in each position, there are lots of ways to live these things out. But I think the intuitive side brings us into inhabiting the person's skin, inhabiting the person that's across the table from me, and literally understanding how he's used these various concepts, these various energies. That might be the most important intuitive part. There's some intuition involved in just the pure reading. I always see sort of a vertical line that comes across. We have this plan, this piece of paper on your table, and you sort of read it vertically. It all sort of comes together in a pyramid, and maybe that's
Ah,
the intuitive side.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, and maybe right now is a good time for anyone that's just starting into learning about astrology or the natal charts. I'll go ahead and show mine. We talked about this before, and it
Yeah,
sounds like a good time to just add it as a general thing for people to see what a chart might look like. And I,
exactly.
I downloaded mine. I should put the link in below. It's not there, but it's Astrodesiant, I think it is, .com.
Astrodienst, yes, it's a Swiss German, actually, a Swiss German service that will draw up your chart for you. I'll draw up your chart for you.
Right.
But if you want your copy at home, my Astrodienst will do it for you.
Okay, that's what I had used. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
so I coming from a conservative religious background, it was like astrology was kind of almost voodoo, as well as all that I do now would have. Family still considers it very, very this way, right? And it's like
Right, right.
so it has taken me quite a journey the last several years to learn that all these planetary and luminary energies are there for us. They're working in our spiritual highest good always,
Always,
and
always.
and that's just amazing to me to know that we're loved so much, or we're so special to this horizontal plane that we live in. I'll just say, or the turning globe, whichever you prefer to think of it as. And we're so special that we're loved every. every day with all these interactions of all the planets to guide us for our spiritual highest good.
This is it. This is the ultimate magic involved in astrology, in all of the esoteric arts. Why should this work? I swear I still don't know how this works so well, or
Right.
why it works so well, but I know that it does. And when I invite someone into consultation, or they show a desire to enter into consultation, it's with this notion of becoming more aware of oneself, of one's good side, possible side, impossible side. What are we supposed to be avoiding? What can we do better? How we should be evolving. And there are techniques in the reading, in the astrology reading, that involve ongoing evolution. The chart is not finished when you're born. It's I see a lotus flower that opens up like this the whole throughout our lives. There's not a stopping point either. It's an ongoing evolution, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I know definitely that we're supposed to be pulling out the most good out of this astrological reading.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Um, so that brought up to me the question of past lives. So if I mean, I work with ancestors and
Mhm.
clearing and things, and so, of course, our actual ancestors would have each had their own birth date, but the theory or the idea of that we each have lived here many times, right? Or that all these lives and possibilities of what happens in each lives are simultaneously occurring or chronologically occurring. And but if we all had the same birth date, how how does that then unfold for each of us, or is it only the one we're most aware of that fully unfolds?
Oh, this is a difficult question. There are, this said, there is a whole school of karmic astrology. There are many astrologers, or a few actually, astrologers that are more interested in the karmic line. It works for me. It works like this. In some charts, I see the old soul, and some other charts are brand new. It's as though the person had just dropped from the sky and was a perfectly new soul. It's very strange how some souls are just older than some other souls. Now, what else is true? And with this in mind, I study really one person at a time. I found that this is pretty complex already, and I haven't gone looking for a lot of karmic ties. Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. But what seems to be true, and when I've looked at generations, grandparents, sometimes we have access to older charts, especially grandparents' charts and our own children's charts. There seems to be, very curiously, a sort of a red line running through the different charts in the different generations. There seems to always be some kind of astrological signature that all of these charts are going to share. In my own family, my brothers, my sister, my father, my mother, we all have Mars in Cancer, in the sign of Cancer,
Hmm.
all of us. We seem to share, part of the family share the fixed signs, this especially the Scorpio Taurus aspect,
Hmm.
opposition. There's always something that's going to connect you to the tribe. I find it a sort of a tribal tattoo, in fact,
Interesting.
that seems to connect the people living in one group, in one tribe.
Hmm. Very interesting. So,
It
like,
is.
so a person could come to you. I mean, of course, for their own reading or
Mm.
guidance, but you would also do one that could they could bring their grandparents and their parents and theirselves and their children's information, and you would
I
find those lines
I
for them.
love it. Yes, I love it.
Cool,
It's all
cool.
in
I'll have to
the
do that.
the chart comparisons, in fact,
Hmm.
and it becomes interesting too. And I'm not only limiting the tribes to families, but for instance, in married couples, we're going to see these same exchanges. It's as though we go looking for each other,
Yeah,
in or out of the tribe. We go looking for each other.
yeah.
Some days I call this electrochemistry. I don't know how to say what this attraction is. I wrote a lot about Venus and Mars, and that seems to have something to do with it. But this attraction goes on, and we're going to find each other one way or the other, and continue the red line that ties us all together.
Yeah, it's that brings up, I just read this yesterday. I'm in training to be a feng shui consultant because it's another form of energy healing. I mean, that was
Absolutely.
a new thought to me, and it was
Yes.
beautiful, and I wanted
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the leader, the teacher says that about half of all the people who's ever been in consultant training, including me, which is in now, about half of all she has certified, she feels a direct connection from past lives with them. And that very much then goes according to what you were saying.
I think so. I think so. I expect it happens with all of us that we meet someone. I know this was true when I was practicing dentistry. You fall upon a patient that comes wandering the door, and you say, "I know this person.
Mhm.
We've had dealings in the past. We're totally comfortable." This happens not only professionally, but meeting someone at a party. You say, "Oh my word, you look really familiar," and you start talking. You find all these things you have in common. It's all over. It's all over. Jung talked a lot about synchronicity. He was very heavy into astrology. Was Carl Jung, and talked a lot about the fact that we fall upon by coincidence. Another word that I never use.
Right, right.
That we're going to fall upon people that we've probably been dealing with for the last, 10,000 years. I maintain
Yeah,
that a lot of family members certainly have old connections, but also people in our surroundings.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like just as our, if you had used the word soul contract or whatever it is we wanted to experience to come to Earth,
Mhm.
many people seem to have had as part of that this ongoing interplay with
Yes,
other people, right? And
for
so they
sure.
appear in their lives and interact, and a lot of it isn't helpful. I've heard that
Mhm.
from some of my clients. I've experienced some of it in the biofield work that I do. It's, some of that isn't that well. I suppose it's meant to be since we have the choice. And in that way, it's meant to be, right? Because we chose it and put it into action.
True.
But it's like, it can't be helpful for maybe it is
Now,
for our highest good. You have to look at it that way, right?
you
That it
know,
is
in
for our highest good.
as we look at a natal chart, yours, as it turns out, we're going to see that there are different types of aspects between the planets, and the aspects, the connections between the planets are very important in this very thing. Some of them are difficult, some of them are conflictual, some of them are easing, are gentle, and
Mm.
the difficult ones are particularly interesting because that's where we grow up. These are the challenges. These are the people or the things or the places or the actions that are going to get us in trouble. And there's always a reason for that. So it's up to us
Yeah,
to work it out. That's where we make
yeah.
our muscles.
Right, right. The star energy is how we show up in the world. Right.
Yes,
I
exactly.
like that phrase. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But so we shouldn't, as you've learned in all your biofield work, your part is clearing out. That's great. My part is recognizing the traps, recognizing
Oh.
the troubles,
Mhm.
recognizing how what they're supposed to be showing us
Yeah.
and how we should be using them. And again, sometimes they'll be very positive. Um, uh, I think of Beethoven always when he became deaf. There was a reason for that, and he made his greatest work when he was deaf.
Yeah.
It was
So,
a something he
yeah.
had to overcome.
Right. So, if you don't mind, I mean, just because it ties in with this conversation, and we talked a little bit about this last week when we were just meeting, and how in um, it gets a little personal, but that's what this is for, right? And so, um, I've been married 3 times. My first two husbands were both Taurus. They had the same initials, and I didn't even recognize that. And it was like, um, I have a moon in Scorpio, and because my son's in Aquarius, and my moon's in Scorpio, and so you had suggested that it was probably the moon and that relationship with the Scorpio and Taurus relationship. But so how I wish I could have, at the age of 20, right, or 22 even, go back a year, 6 months or a year before I met my first husband, right,
Uh-huh.
and had someone show me this and say, this is going to be very difficult, because you were talking about which is easy and which is difficult, right? And
Sure.
it's like, why, if I could have known that and gone in there and someone could say, now, you'll feel this attraction, but it's going to be very, very difficult, and it's your choice if you want that or if you want a different path.
Of course, of course.
And of course, I didn't
Yeah,
learn the lesson the first time, so I made another choice the
that
same way, and I moved on to someone else. I mean, that has a different birth sign, so I must have learned whatever lesson I was meant to
yep, that's ideal.
after the second no good one, right?
Now, mind you, these the in your in your story, these people were probably needing to teach you something or to show you something. Huh?
Yeah,
And that's why, the first few times we kind of knock our head against a wall until it doesn't feel good anymore and move on, right? Or say,
definitely.
oh my, that's a hard wall. Or maybe I want to look for a window or a door or
Yeah.
change houses or something.
Right, but did I interpret what you said correctly, as far as, so someone, you could look at a person's chart and see that ahead of time and say, you might have this, but you might think about doing this instead.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah,
That's the whole idea.
beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
But I'm thinking too, people tend to come into consultation at a time where they're at some sort of crossroads. Maybe they've done this particular action too many times, or maybe they're really tired of a certain reaction that they see in themselves over and over again, a really bad habit, a really bad reflex. And, sometimes that's when it's time to check out, it's time to see what the problem is. And it's typically some square or some opposition that we have to deal with
Uh-huh.
and work it through. That's what I do in consultations, work these things through.
Neat. Yeah, that's so beautiful. I wish I would have known more, but then of course I wouldn't be exactly where I am now in my life, right? I
No,
wouldn't appreciate it as much, perhaps, to
that's
come
true.
into
That's
it later
true.
after a life of hard knocks.
Yeah, well, I've seen that's a funny thing that you say. The charts that I find the most difficult to approach are charts that are too easy, too
Oh,
comfortable,
mhm.
too everything is given, everything is gentle, everything is, mind you, this doesn't exist in the real world, but But a chart that has no challenges in it is an invitation to depression, is an
Oh,
invitation to doubt, the first hard wind that will knock this person over. And he doesn't understand what's wrong. So
mm,
we need these lessons. They have to happen.
yeah, yeah, they do. We just need to be thankful or give gratitude for what we learn, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And not have the regrets. Um, I try
No.
to overcome. I mean, I try not to do on, and as say with the marriage, past marriages or whatever, we were have been on good terms. I mean, yes, things work out, right? You learn to work together instead of against each other, just like the relationship with the planets. And
Yeah.
and I have been thankful for what I learned, and I'm definitely most thankful because I have a son from each marriage, and I'm blessed, right? Totally blessed. So I try not to go back on the regret, but it sometimes, it just comes out. Oh darn! Why couldn't have I done this?
Yeah.
So
Regret. The things I actually the things I regret are the things that I haven't done, which is maybe good.
yeah,
Which is
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
the best regret to have. And so you go out and do it if you still can.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I I guess I see that as part of how our charts are supposed to play out or will play out, because I see that as um, one of our callings here, as part of what we're meant to do here on earth, to listen to our spirit and whatever, not just the mind's busyness. I mean, a lot of the
Yes,
things you want to do are just the mind's busyness, and they're good experiences, but when
great.
you tap inside, right, and hear your inner self or the spirit guiding you in meaningful ways for yourself and other people, and you bring those into fruition, that's
Mhm.
that's what we're here for too.
Precisely, precisely. Uh, Getting involved, well, it's another subject actually, but getting involved in our core, in our trueness, our most honest parts of ourselves, and living that part out is, well, another goal in astrology is to show a person who he is. He's not his mother's doctor, he's not his father's architect, he's not his father's whatever. He's his own person, and he's got to go looking for that person.
Yeah, yeah, and I think think, and it's very, very good thing, that more and more people in the last few years are going in that journey, right?
It's wonderful.
Of finding out who they are, not just continuing the mind path of the work, 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 or
Yeah,
the surface things, right? None of which are
sure.
bad, but just the surface, not or the physical, not the inner. But to see the people actually on their journeys, and to be able to walk with them a bit, to help, like you're doing, showing the way, or like I'm doing, clearing some of the old blocks so that they continue the way they want to do, not the way that habit has become.
Exactly.
And
I think you're probably inclined to believe, as I do, that this is an extremely privileged position in another person's life to be invited in and looked to for help, be able to undo some knots or show some easier ways to do things or better ways to get one's life led. It's I'm so grateful actually to my clients that they want to share with me to that extent.
yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
when they want to let me in, why it's a gift.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was wondering, in can you see into your own chart as deeply as you can see into someone else's chart, or I like with biofield work, I can tune myself, but it's much, it can go much deeper. If I mean, it can go deep too, but it just seems overall, in general, it works better if someone else does it.
Well, yes. They're going to say, "Mary Jane, cut that out," and I might not say this to myself, although astrology is maybe a little maybe special in that I virtually accomplished my own psychoanalysis during my astrological studies. Your first
Oh,
client is yourself, huh?
mhm,
In astrology, in any case.
mhm.
And I literally, took that chart apart and put it back together again, and still am. 50 years later, I'm looking at this chart and finding something new virtually every time.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Well, it is. It is. And as I said, the evolutionary part goes on.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you want to pay attention to it. So it's excellent. We always start out, everyone starts out looking at his own chart. And in a group, we were in a small class, of course, around this astrologer, and we shared each other's charts. And this is where we made our, got down to the bare bones and learned all along. Then you're ready to take on some other people. But well, yeah, it's maybe it's special to our trade. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I kind of started in biofield tuning. We learned on someone else. I mean, we had the small group that you
Uh-huh,
practice on each other, right, to
uh-huh.
learn the basics and everything. But then you come home and you can learn on your. I learned a lot on myself just because it wasn't always easy to find someone. It was, that would be my client, right?
Right, right.
To
I
practice
understand.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I was always here and I knew
Right.
I needed help. So,
That's always true. I might profit from a certain distance because ours is a lecture. It's a true, pencil on paper reading, learning to read this chart, and we don't need hands-on connection. We also studied for years. We spend studying famous charts. It's not always charts of famous people, but famous charts that where we learn the templates, where we learn the references. Um, that allows us to see a sun or a Mercury in Gemini, and I know from experience how 5,000 people have lived with this Mercury in Gemini, and so I can maybe have an idea of how this person that's walking in the door right now is going to handle that particular planet. So it's in our formation, it's all background. It's all background. There's no such thing really as hands-on until we're ready to do it.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite different.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. So what, I don't know, maybe it puts you on the spot, but so what is one of those famous examples you spoke of or that
Oh, get my book. I've got 100 charts in this
okay.
book to
Uh-huh.
tell you exactly that. But one that I love, uh, maybe it's an easy one to grasp as well, is the chart of uh, Conan Doyle.
Yeah. Hmm.
Conan Doyle, who wrote, of course, Sherlock Holmes,
Yes.
the perfect, a Gemini with a rising sign in Gemini, tons of planets. I think Mercury was there probably. I haven't looked at this chart in a while, but he's the ultimate perfect Gemini,
Hmm. Interesting.
and he spent. He had again a double personality. He was first of all and groomed as a war correspondent. His one love was doing writing journals, writing articles for newspapers at home during the war. that he was involved in. And this is where he made his bread and butter. This is where he wanted to be well known. Well, when times got bad, or between two wars, he began to write his novels, Sherlock Holmes. He became, I mean, everybody loved Sherlock Holmes. They were waiting to grab up the papers and read the next installment of his mystery novels and detective novels. He became jealous. He became literally jealous of Sherlock Holmes.
Wow.
I think he had a serious split personality myself, because he literally was furious with this fellow, which is why he ultimately killed him in the last one. He said, "I've had enough of this fellow," and was always jealous of his popularity.
Wow.
He couldn't accept this in himself. So
Interesting.
yeah, I find it really interesting, and Holmes showed the positive side, this incredible rapid mentality that could see all the connections. Mercury is the planet of connections, after all, and communication, language,
Yes.
ruse, clever enigmas and things. So sure. So this was the healthy side, the Castor side of Conan Doyle. The Pollux side was this desperate, depressed war correspondent who couldn't make any money doing what he wanted to do.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
it's quite a chart.
Wow. Yeah, I loved Sherlock Holmes. We had an old book. It was probably from the 1918 or 1920 that we'd got at an auction somewhere, right? And it had a collection of 20 stories or whatever. I don't know how many times I read and read and read over and over and
Oh yeah.
over the book.
I
Yeah, I
learned
still
I learned
remember.
to read. I learned to read reading Sherlock Holmes. I
Yeah.
grew up with him.
Yeah, it's great. And what imagination, right?
Astonishing, just
Yeah.
astonishing. But it wasn't his healthy side, actually, of
Right,
Doyle.
interesting. So
Yeah.
was that wasn't the Gemini side then? Sherlock displayed a different side, or was that displaying Gemini
Well,
also?
because each sign, each planet, and certainly each sign is going to have its positive and negative ways of living through it. Now, Doyle was traveling all over. He was doing the writing. Writing is a very important communicative skill for with Gemini, connected with Gemini. He was doing all the good traveling and all the other really wonderful things that Geminis are noted for. That part got lived out. But he had to finally count on the other side, this brilliant detective, and using total imagination instead of going out and getting in trouble on the war fronts. He was sitting in his office there in Downing Street, and you're making up all these incredible stories. Baker Street, excuse me. Oh,
Yeah, Baker's,
uh,
yes.
in getting involved in all these incredible detective problems. So it was, to my mind, it's an excellent way to see both ways, or multiple ways, to live out one aspect. Again, I come back to this Mercury and Gemini, who is already in a double sign, already is an androgynous planet, a double planet, if you will. It's always twins. And so we definitely see the twin side in
Hmm.
Conan Doyle.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
interesting. Yeah.
It's always fun.
Well, yeah,
Oh, I've
yeah.
got I've got thousands of them.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that one.
Uh,
Yeah. I was wondering too, how does your tarot then combined with your natal charts, or do you combine them, or it's just something you draw on it
and
experience?
I guess probably as a young person, I uh, hooked up with tarot. I had an aunt, and the eccentric Gemini aunt, who was involved in all these esoteric studies. She lived far away from us, but I saw her every now and then, and she and I had this red line connection. We were obviously in the same tribe. Anyway, she showed me a few things about the tarot when I was actually quite young. And I always had, periodically, I would go to a tarot card reader and, have top ups on my favorite subject, whatever was going on. So I sort of knew the tarot. Now, there are some parallels, not many, between the astrological reading and the tarot, because they're actually different vocabularies of the same phenomena. I like to use the tarot. I like to come back to the tarot to sort of fluff out chart reading.
Hmm.
We'll see details. We'll see daily kind of bare bones details that sort of give us an idea of how to use this particular challenge, this particular interview, this particular person, whatever is showing up in
Hmm.
the astrological chart. We can, I like to say, we can see the color of his eyes. You can see what this person is going to be involving us in. So it gives us again daily details. Tarot is such a noble instrument. It's so beautiful for getting these details. Not only our own evolution, that's a beautiful part of the tarot, but also just day to day help. It's lovely. And
Hmm.
so I have, for a long time, I had really parallel clientele. Some people came in exclusively for the tarot and didn't want anything, didn't want to get involved in the work of astrology. And my astrology folks don't really believe in the tarot. It's too silly, it's too woo woo. So, in my own thinking, I kind of use both of them essentially at the same time.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. I'm just going to pause right here and put my banner up here for any um, new people watching, at whatever time you're watching, to like and subscribe, please, to help the channel grow so we can get Mary Jane's and other guest information out to everybody too. So, and I had a question. I was reading on your Radiate Wellness site, right? Or maybe it was on your book description. I can't remember. And it said that you had more recently began to use Bach flower essences to help people in, guidance or in
Mhm.
energetically working through the different transits they were going through. So, how does that
Okay.
work? And what exactly are flower essences?
I'm far from being an expert on the flower essences, but I find that they're extremely helpful in time, in especially during painful or difficult transits on the natal chart. Now, what's involved, first of all, there, as the planets, especially the heavy planets, the slow planets, are going around us always. They're in perpetual movement, of course, but they come across neuralgic places in our chart, very sensitive places uh, where other planets are located on the natal chart. And as planets go over these very sensitive spots, we're going to feel them and we're going to be living out their message to us. Um, I won't go into the how these planets are, in fact, a function of they're mirrors of the zeitgeist of what we're living at any given time, all of us together. But we're going to be more sensitive to certain planets than certain others, according to what our natal chart looks like. Now, as these planets are coming across and creating whatever havoc they're creating for us, good or bad, I've found the Bach essences are very useful because they're called the medicine of the soul. The flower essences work on an etheric level. They're not like taking an aspirin. They're like uh, getting a good massage, if you will. The flower essences are going to be talking to our our unconscious, essentially, and giving the proper ease to accept, the proper ease to understand what's happening to us, or just to calm us down and let us take in the messages that are accompanying these transits. That's how I use them. Is especially with the transits, they're invaluable.
Very cool. So, could you give an example of an essence that you use and what transit it might be?
Clematis comes to mind because I'm in a Neptunian phase myself. Clematis is the essence that seems to be in tune with Neptune. Now, Neptune,
Oh,
as it's going through again in transits, Neptune creates a very fuzzy, foggy, unclear, un uncomfortable situation for us wherever it's going, whatever it's doing.
hmm.
Um, can create depression. Sometimes this is a key to a depressive state. Clematis is the planet that works with and against at the same time. Of course, it's the homeopathic approach. Get in touch with your planet and in this case, Neptune, and the clematis is going to get in touch with that planet as well, with that part of us that's receiving this Neptunian fog, and
Interesting.
helps us take on the inspirational side, which accompanies Neptune, and clear off some of the fog that creates otherwise uncomfortable daily experiences for us.
Oh, very, very neat, very neat. I've been dabbling in flower essences. I love to garden, and especially herbal medicinals. And
Uh,
so I've just been making flower essences of almost everything in my garden,
ooh,
weeds or things I plant, or trees that are of their flower essences. And then I experiment with them. You know, I take them a few times a day for a few days and see if I can tell what energy it is that they're giving, right? And
fantastic.
now I don't currently have a clematis. I'll have to put it's been on my list. I just haven't had an arbor, you know, or a pole to grow it on. So excellent. I will have to get one of those. And the but and then of course then you have them in combination with each other too,
Of
right?
course, of course. As in the natal chart, no planet is working alone,
Right?
and so the planetary combinations, you can create bouquets of flower essences that are very useful as well. They're all going to help each other along. It's very nice.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, the spring I was even going I live in a really tiny little town, and if I didn't have a certain tree in my yard blooming, then I went to the city park or to the church down the street
Right.
and tied a little jar of water there to on the branch to gather
Excellent.
the essences,
Sure.
and I haven't tried those that I did this spring yet. I've set them on, you know, spring's so busy. I'll work on those in the heat of summer or next fall, you know, as things
Uh-huh.
slow down or something,
Right, right,
and try
right.
to experiment with them. But
Oh, that's how Dr. Bach developed his flower essences. He was doing them
okay,
all himself. I don't know if that's the healthiest approach, but
oh
it's
right,
certainly
yeah,
the most direct. And
yes, true, yeah. The yeah, it was amazing. Some of them, it's like a couple of them. I took the first took it maybe twice, and it was like, oh, you know, I that whatever that energy was, it was like, no, I don't want
yeah,
that. Yeah. So now maybe I could come back to it, you know, at a different transit or something
yeah,
and
yeah,
find it helpful or a different phase of my life. Yeah.
for sure.
Interesting. Very cool. So are the Bach essences according to our um not just the flower, but is each then flower essence according to the moon phase or the
No, I
transits or
don't know.
anything?
I don't know how they're drawn up or how they're created. I only get them out of
Yeah.
the bottle myself and go
Right.
to work.
Yeah.
But some of them are macerations, some of them are oils that are
Okay.
extracted. I honestly don't know. There
Hmm.
there are all kinds too. Some of them are chestnuts. They're not always the flowers. Essentially,
Okay.
they can also be pine needles, for instance.
Okay.
Uh, Verveine. What is that? Oh dear. It's a type of tea, in fact, that we use in the West as an infusion. He's got all kinds of ways that been drawing out these essences. I'm not, as I said, I've not been to school there, so I
Sure.
don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, very, very interesting. Yes.
But
Thanks for
yeah,
talking about the flower
oh
essences.
goodness, I love to use them. Yeah, I really do.
And what amazes me about the essences, now I don't know if there's any tie you can make to astrology with this, but with the essences, it's like the smaller the percentage of the essence in the water, right? The smaller
Mhm.
the strength, the greater the strength it is, right?
Yes, yeah,
And
that's true.
um, does that have any tie into the integrative energies and the transits of the
Oh,
different
absolutely.
stars? Yeah.
Absolutely. I've started out and I haven't really taken the time to continue studying the vibrationary uh, levels of each planet that's in touch with, each planet is in touch with a type of uh, plant or flower, it's in the same vibration as a certain stone, as a certain part of the soil. We're living in levels of vibration that are always looking for each other. And I think that's how the essences work. Essentially, the clematis is in a perfect vibrational level with Neptune, and each one is separate. We've got a whole strata of different vibration levels that are going to touch us more or less with each person. We're not going to be subject to everyone, thank heaven. I don't think we'd
Right.
ever get to sleep.
Right. Well, that's true too. Yeah.
Basically. But it's important, at least very useful, to find out which vibration we're working on. Then you can count on the stones, the crystals,
Mm.
the earth, the flowers, the plants, the whatever you're looking for. If you're working on that particular vibration, you can take it all in and use it all.
Neat. Cool. I would like to, because your book is about Venus and Mars, right?
Mhm.
Um, would you mind talking a bit about Venus? I had remembered telling you in my conversation that we had before that, um, because I talk to trees and other plants, they're easy, and I talk to the planets, to the stars, and the probably the most distinctive energy that I feel in response to talking to them is Venus's. And you had pointed out that that's probably my Scorpio moon again. But it's like
Mhm.
I find Venus very spicy or flighty. I don't. It's a
She
kind of
is a
a
bit of that. She is a bit of that. Venus is the desire part of the desire and design. Just a word about this couple because it's notorious after all.
mhm,
We always hear about Venus and Mars kind of in the same time, and this has been going on for the last 5,000 years in virtually every civilization. Um, in my take on Venus and Mars in my astrology is that Venus is the uh, left hand of the sun. They're both in service to the sun. Venus is the left hand of the sun, and Mars is the right hand of the sun. Venus is the sun being this driving energy, right? That each of us has. Venus is going to uh, desire, show what is important, what has value, what we consider important and desirable in our lives, what we're going to need for our own personal comfort, for what attracts us. Mars is the muscle. the Mars is going to go out and get that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It, however, whatever his mode of entry is, however he's wired to do it, he's going to go do it. So they work together, desire and design, how to get this thing.
Hmm. Okay.
So Venus, yes, well, flighty is maybe a big word. The Venus in Gemini is definitely flighty. Venus in Taurus a little less so. She's more desirous. You know, this is money. This
Okay.
is the money
Hmm.
Venus.
Yes. And that's what she talks to me about a lot. She talks
Ah,
about
interesting.
money.
Yes, this is her main subject conversation. No, Venus is also love, is also beauty, is also aesthetic. It's our whole set of values. So that's a whole gamut of
Yes.
information. Huh?
Yes.
But money is important in there because she likes to know what is hers and how to, get what is hers and what that's going to be. So flighty, no, I would say egocentric,
Ah.
definitely,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
definitely. Life preserving. There's a strong sense of preservation because my life is mine, and what I have is what I want to keep. And so she has a great deal to say about taking care of oneself,
Ah.
taking care of
Nice.
one's own
Yeah.
interests.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. So she's giving advice to how we can um, take care of what's ours because that's
Of
how
what's
she.
ours.
Yes.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And that's not unimportant.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Oh, very cool. So then Mars, you said the go-to or how to get it done type of thing. And he
Right.
works on the same thing, helping us see how to get it done for us.
Well, actually, Mars, no, he's much less mentally attuned than Venus, for instance.
Okay.
Mars is all action. It's all reflex. So we can sort of, depending on again where Mars is in one's chart, where in which sign Mars is living. Mars in Cancer likes to dig in and is there for the long haul. He think trench warfare in the First World War. You know, this is Mars in action. Mars in Gemini is going to be more calculating. He's going to be more tricky, and we'll look for the mental way of acting to act out the problem, to act out to figure out the connections. Uh, uh, Mars in Leo is tends to be more athletic and is very generous in his
Hmm.
activities. Will be more fair play than the Mars in an Aries, for instance, who's just all straight ahead.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Has a team spirit that the Mars in Aries doesn't have. So again, we cannot separate just Mars activity, although each one is an archetype. If you go back and look at the Jungian or psychological archetypes, these have been taken or given to the planets, in fact. And so, as you read the stories in mythology, I love mythology. I use mythology a lot because I find it's the most thorough school of psychology that I've ever come across. Everything is there. The gods have done it all. They've shown it all. They've got a ton of lessons for us, and it's just a really good school of psychology. So, as you're reading about Mars, and you won't read about Mars a great deal in mythology. Curiously enough, he's always there. He's always sending people off to war and generally acting up when people are being nasty to each other. But his main psychological function is deeper than that in our lives. In any case,
Hmm.
you know.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. I had another question here. I wanted to see if I'd answered it. Oh, yeah. Is there any? major or minor, I guess, differences? Because as being in Switzerland or European study or application of the natal charts that differs any from how it's typically done in the United States. I know both are considered Western, right?
Sure.
But I'm guessing maybe there's slightly different aspects to that, or not necessarily.
Not really, not between Europe and the States. What's more interesting is probably getting involved in the Eastern, way Eastern. I'm talking
Hmm.
astrologies that are much different. The Sino-Vietnamese uh, astrology is totally different. I know very little about the Chinese astrology, but it's a different reading, has uh, different approaches, different connections uh, between the planets as well. The Hindu astrology is a totally different reading. They assign, essentially the same personalities to Shak planet, but not to each planet. But not every planet is allowed to enter into conversation with every other planet. The conversations are extremely explicit, and in Hindu astrology, it's much more lunar based than solar based, which is the case in Western astrology. So
Right.
that gets to be quite different. But in general, the Western astrology, as we know it in the stateside and in Europe, is uh, is fairly conform everywhere.
Okay. And the same way, have you done any study of the difference then with sidereal astrology versus the tropical or Western?
I no, actually not. I read initially in my studies. I read some of the sidereal astrologers who like working like that. I
Hmm.
found that it's just not applicable to what we're living. I couldn't find it pertinent to my own life. I couldn't
Hmm.
find it pertinent to the lives I was studying, and I just it may be more important on the astrology of the globe, for instance, what is
Okay.
happening to our planet during its travels through the universe.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't know. I've always thought that I had my hands pretty full just taking care of people.
Oh,
And,
yeah, I agree. And
you
I
know,
know in the little that I've looked at sidereal, I think that the Western seems much more, I lean toward that a lot more, that it seems more accurate for
oh
me.
yes, so because we're active in the seasons, and when I see the planets acting uh, seasonally as they're going through the different signs, I just feel very comforted in staying with tropical astrology.
Yeah, yeah, very good. All righty. Well, is there anything that you thought that you would like to leave us with, or invitation for people to contact you, or?
That, in any case, I find, who was it, that Paracelsus said that approaching your life without a sense of timing is a total waste of time and energy. And I think it's true. One of the beautiful things that I love about astrology, and one of the main things we're trying to accomplish, is working with our time limits, working in time, using our strong periods and accepting our weak periods. There are times when we're supposed to be getting ahead. There are times when we're supposed to be sitting back, taking it easy. In everything, there is a season. It's in the Bible, and
Mhm.
it certainly is it true in our lives. And so, one of the things that I like to do, and one reason people get involved with their astrology, is working with timing in your lives. And reading your birth chart is first of all useful in understanding your own rhythms, your own impulses, your own reasons, but also how to use all that energy and to get something done, to get things done that you want to get accomplished in your life.
Yeah,
That's yeah, that's one very good argument to come and see me in Geneva. You don't even have to come here.
that's right. Awesome. And I do have your links below there for your book on Amazon and the Radiant Wellness page that people could contact you through there.
Great,
So
great.
awesome. Mary Jane, thank you so much for joining me. I loved our conversation today. It's very enjoyable.
This has been a true pleasure, and I hope we can do this again.
That would be fun. All right. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll catch you next week.
So long.